as it has been going clash between Islamic civilization and uh, the clash of the Christians or the English civilization that took start from the land of England and the land of Arabia. And there have been a big match over the pages of the history, centuries after centuries, decades after decades, and periods after periods. There have been a greatest clash, greatest match ever over the history of the human race in the world of ideology. The Christians, with the dogma of the literature, they started spreading and disseminating it in the era of 11th and 12th century at the going of the extremes of it, and the Muslims were also going to defend the Islamic Arabian survival of the fittest. So this was the match between the Islamic civilizations and the British and Christians and Jews survivors. Though three of the you can say the representative of the religions are of the Al-Kitab, they are the believers, they are the Christians, they are the Jews, and they are the Muslims. But why they have been fighting against each other? It was all the clash of civilization, it was all the clash of survival, it was all the clash of titans between the two biggest forces, that were the Christians and the Muslims. And the Muslims were rising, they arisen rightfully in the era of Hazrat Umar Farooq. Then the second phase rightfully came at the defending of Sultan Salahuddin Ayyubi. And then later on, when the Christians have terribly been defeated and they went back to England and they modernized their weapons and developed the scientific temper in their education and teachings and literature, then they started colonization and started, you can say, occupying and overcoming the rest of the world. And on the second phase, they took the Bible, they took the Shakespeare literature and the teachings of the Unani and you can say the Greeks, and started and felt better to spread it among the human beings. They took somewhat from the Islamic civilization. Largely they learned the art of warriorship, art of the how to fight the field wars in the world of defending and attacking and offense and defense. And the Christians largely learned something from Sultan Salahuddin Ayyubi, and when they had been terribly beaten, terribly, you can say, expelled from the land of Arabia, they went back and they become aware of what was the, you can say, weaknesses that needs to be addressed at the spot and to return. And then they returned into another phase of colonization, and you can say the English civilization, to separate it in the world, as Vietnamese were already here, Holland people were already here, Portuguese were already here, but they were just detector and they were just preamble to the what the biggest phenomena and the biggest you can say clash of civilization between the two Islamic and you can say the British and the English civilizations were to combat against each other. They came in the era of largely in the Mughal Empire, and they based East India Company and many of the Nizams and many of the, you can say, the Rajas, many of the Maharajas, many of the, you can say, Maratha's, many of the tribal and the sectarian one, and the different communities of the subcontinent went at war against the Britons, against the English civilization, though they were highly equipped with as to how to teach the ways of the world, as to how to teach the ways of their religion, though they had somewhat clashing, you can say, kind of dogmas of life, but they were rightfully, you can say, skilled as to how they were to implement and impose their teachings upon the you can say the innocent and the sacred, and like you can say the ignorant people present over the planet of the subcontinent. One big change that came over the you can say land of subcontinent, and that I would say was the biggest fatal mistake that came from one of our Muslim leader, that was Sirajul Dola. Sirajul Dola, you can say, was at the deathbed, and he was about to die, and it was the fatal disease that he was facing. And one of the doctors from the Britons, from the English civilizations and the English people, offered him that if we get you cured or treated while taking you into England, and after getting being treated and getting being cured, what you will give to us, what you will respond to us? He said, what you can expect from a king. If you will honor a king, what king will do in response? King never, you can say, denies the what that is our own in any matter of the life, or in any you can say word of the sense. They would never, you can say, stay back to respond. So Sirajudillah has been taken into England, and he has been treated over there, and he has been cured. And rightfully, when he returned to you can say subcontinent, back to his ruling, he gave 80 villages to the English East India Company, and then onward, you could say, the fatal fate of the Muslim Mughal Empire started to be overtaken, because the English were just came over here to sell their spices, nothing else. But when they you can say started observing the weaknesses and somewhat you can say fatal errors, mistakes which they found out in the reigning of in the ruling of the Mughal empires, they started penetrating into the affairs of the executive affairs, started into political affairs. They started to learn the languages, they started to learn the psychology of the area, they started to learn the cultures and religion and rest of all whatever the stuff was present in the subcontinent. And English were somewhat you can say shrewd enough, and they were highly equipped with the knowledge of Islamic rise and civilization, Islamic teachings, and then the Greek knowledge, and then the knowledge of Bible, and then the knowledge of the world, and then the knowledge of all the material and scientific and technological as that was present at that day. They were fully equipped. They were intellectually and physically mean by the weapons point of view and the latest devices that they were enjoying at that time. They were fully equipped with it, and with the intellectual panorama of the Greek knowledge and the knowledge that Shakespeare and Marlowe and Milton and Wordsworth and Ruskin and you can say Iliad, and you can say the Chaucerian, that's knowledge all takes from Chaucerian, you can say, who is considered to be the morning star of the English literature, till the D.H. Lawrence, and then later on to the 21st century when one of the leading, you can say, drama play came on limelight, that was of Caretaker, where in which you can say the all knowledge and all governorship is mentioned in there. And that was a preamble to the all rise of the Islamic and you can say the English civilization. So they kept going on, and 80 you can say villages that have been gifted from Sirajul Dola after being cured and taken into England, and when he returned he gifted 80 villages, and that you can say a big amount of 80 villages, giving a big geography over the land of subcontinent, become a fatal disease, a fatal mistake of our Muslim rulers, and they started getting root over the land of subcontinent. And then you can say story goes on, and they started penetrating into the internal and external coming and internal rising affairs of the Mughal empires and then the Muslim world. That that goes on, goes on, goes on. And how you can say the history of the Mughal empires and the, you can say, Islamic rise and Islamic civilization, and as well as English civilization came at the limelight. You would be well aware that both the World War I and World War II were fought by the manpower taken from the largely from the eastern countries, largely from the, you can say, subcontinent people, and they were at the level that when they came to know that the Indians and the subcontinent people are getting aware, and they are getting more and more sharper, and they are getting more and more aware, and they are having any and all kinds of stuff and you can say material that is needed to promote in the world of subcontinent and the Asiatic states. They came to know that now the roots of the socialism and you can say the communism that were coming from the Karl Marx teachings, though Karl Marx itself was German and Jew, and he was expelled from Germany, and he went through the different you can say countries like Poland, like you can say France, and finally he got settled in England, and he started, you can say, preaching the teachings of Karl Marx, and you can say when the industrialism and you can say factory workers were being pitted and beaten terribly, though the Charles Dickens was also writing English novel, social novel. He wrote many of the novels and tried to, you can say, uproot the evils, social evils, and the you can say deprivations that were coming into the workers, and he tried to voice up the workers' party and workers like kind, laborers like kind people, because his father, Charles Dickens' father, was also working in like a labor in the factory, and he faced many of the plights and miseries. And when Charles Dickens came into working class, he also faced somewhat you can say pressure from the you can say the factory owners and the industrialists. But he decided that he would voice up, and he would raise the voice of those one who has been considered as the neglected section of the society. Though the Charles Dickens period, when he was voicing up for the social evils that was present in the 18th centuries and 19th centuries England, in the same way you can say the socialist and Karl Marx teachings were spreading over the land of England, and they were clashing each other, but the objective of the both ones working and the teachings and the preaching were that the lower class and the middle class that is facing the tyranny and the suppression of the factory owners and the industry owners, as you can say, they were at the rise, and they were already you can say facing the troubles and problems over the minds of the you can say laborers, as in 1789 to 1799 around French Revolution came. That was also you can say against the you can say industrial curses and industrial cruelties, and Napoleon Bonaparte and played role, and then second Napoleon Bonaparte turned into ruling, but he became, you can say, victim to the man class, and against it military kind of establishment came in French after the revolution of the taking of step of the Napoleon Bonaparte into rulership. But now I will travel into the that socialism revolution that came into, you can say, Russia, that was later getting roots in the subcontinent in 1917-20 and onward, when First World War and Second World War later on came. That was the clash between the capitalism and the socialism, Marxism teachings, because there was poverty and ignorance at the massive level in subcontinent. That's why the teachings of socialism and the communism was rightfully and in a hasty manner, in a speedy manner, were getting the roots in the classes of the different classes. as you know, Aryan Samaj, Aryan, you can say, civilization is the oldest civilization, and the present English, particularly American civilization, is the oldest civilization. As I have already mentioned, that present, you can say, the Hindus are the product of the one of the times Jews. Jews came in a garb, in a cover, and started living in, you can say, subcontinent. So the story goes on the rise of the English civilization and the Arabian civilization, the clash going on, how the, you can say, after being pitted by the Sultan Salahuddin Ayyubi, and they have been, you can say, chasing down the Muslims world, and Muslims conquers and Muslim countries to be overcome, and then the Jews and the Christians and the Muslims. It was a tracker kind of fight that was all time going among them, until, you can say, they once again united to break the once to break the other, you can say, biggest bloc of the world, Russia, in, you can say, Taliban period, and 1979 till 1989, around that they have been broken, then they have been flashed back. In the rest of all periods, you can say, Christians and Jews and Muslims have been fighting against each other. In the same way, when we come to know that those civilization is going on, I will now turn to the case of, you can say, Kashmir. Kashmir, if I a bit to talk about the history of Kashmir. You can say, you know, as I have mentioned, that Aryan Samaj was over there, over the land of, you can say, subcontinent, and Aryan people, Hindus, were living there, and everywhere there was Hinduism. And as Muhammad bin Qasim came in Sindh in 712 around period, and then the first, you can say, Muslim came officially to defend some ladies over the, you can say, Sindhi area. That was the cruelty coming from Raja there over there, and he, you can say, came there, and he beaten him out and outshined him, and gave a beautiful Islamic administration and justice system, and that impressed the local period of the local people of the that time, and they converted into Islam. That Islam offers open, you can say, sense of equality and opportunity, gives that everyone could rise to life and could have the amenities of life, and could live with the kings and queens, and there is no difference, because in belief they are same, and in practice they are also same. And Islam's main objective is to pick out the lower ones and the middle ones to the heights of the life, so that they become a better tool or a better supporter to the making of the nation and the country and the state. That is, after all, fruitful. There is no political mindset that classes are to be created so that they could remain on extending of their political setup on them. Rather, Islamic government or state, wherever they would try to sponsor, they would try to, you can say, help out the middle and lower ones people, so that they could come up and they could be the part of the mainstream of life, and they become the helping tool to make the country stronger and better one. Though upcoming their generation could make a better role to play for the betterment of the country. But when as I talked about that, Hindus were there, Aryan Samaj people were living there. That is the oldest civilization present upon the subcontinent, that has always been claiming that the English came from the foreign, Portuguese came from the foreign land, and the rest of all, you can say, came from the foreign land, and they occupied them, and they have always been under the curse and the tyranny of the foreigners. But the thing is that we are to change the system, we are to change the intellectual level, we are to change our strategies, and we are to make ourselves better, so that they could fight against the foreigners, and they could fight against and defend the land of where they are living. They can't claim that we were the innocent people, and the English came and the Portuguese came and whosoever came, and the Muslims came, Mughal came, and they have been overcoming them. Why? Because they should have revolutionized one. As we study the Dalit Aurat, that is Dalit ladies that are present in the Aryan Samaj, they are the, you can say, they are the you can say, facing the curse of the Hindu civilization. If the same lady is present in American New York, she would be entirely enjoying the fruits of the modern age. But the lady that is getting birth in the Dalit family, she is being taken as at the lowest figure, and she is not being, you can say, helped out to come to the limelight, and our, you can say, upcoming generation is also facing the tyranny and the suppression. So you can say the Hindus were there and the Hindus were living there. Then a time came when you can say the history of the Kashmir, history, you know, history, what I would say about Kashmir. Kashmir is a beautiful, you can say, place, the valley that is present in Earth, planet Earth. That is a paradise on planet Earth. There is no, you can say, other question on it. Unarguably, everyone that will visit as a tourist, as an independent person, would give a first, you can say, point of view or opinion about that Kashmir is the beautiful one valley and matchless at its landscapes and its, you can say, magnificent attraction that it appeals to the people visiting over there. So when I am on to talk on Kashmir, that before, you can say, Kashmir history took start when the Muslims, first you can say Muslims or Islam accepted, embraced Islam. That was in, you can say, from 1339 to 1818. There have been the period of Islamic rulership, and Muslims have been ruling there. The official system and the departmental system and the social system, and each and everything was being in an organized way running to the land, and Muslims were the rulers over there. And you could say before 1339 there was some of the Muslims and that they have embraced Islam, though they have been in the past the Hindus one, but they accepted Islam, and later on they were as the Muslim, you can say, section of the society present there. Then 1339 to 1818, you can say the Muslims ruled them, and then you can say 1819 up till 18 around 45. That was a bit slim strength of the time when Ranjit Singh overtook the Muslims and ruled them. And in the era or in the period of Ranjit Singh, you can say the mosques, Masajid-e-Islam, or the mosques of Muslim have been made stables. Mean the horses were tied in the mosques, and you could think how the Sikh or the Singh family have been ruining the, you can say, the teachings and the preachings of or the civilization tried its level best to evaporate and wipe out from the face of earth. So that was, you can say, the 1819 to 1845. Ranjit Singh have been, you can say, ruling over there. Then a time came when you can say he might have fought against the internal threats and the external threats, and then a time came when he handed Kashmir over to English, you can say, rulers or English people. You can say, in what sense? In sense of ransom. He might have faced the defeat, and rather to sell it out, he might have adjusted it in the ransom, and for a compensation point of view, he handed Kashmir over to English people along with Koh-i-Noor Hira, the diamond Hira. Koh-i-Noor diamond has been handed over to English people. That is still present in England, and they are the people, many of the people, you can say, visiting from subcontinent, from Asiatic states. When they go there, they visit it and they find it that it's the finest one item that was handed over to them in the era of 1819, and then onward to the 1845, and then onward when they handed something into their, you can say, the rulers, Then it was the period of 1845. In the period of 1845, you can say the king of the, you can say the East India Company and the people that was ruling over here, they were getting roots after defeating one and another, you can say Nizam and Maharaja and the Raja and this and that. Finally, Kashmir came into the hands of English civilization, English people, and they have been, you can say, torturing them. They have been, you can say, crushing them. They have been bulldozing them. They have been, you can say, trying to shine them out and to kill them out of the, and to expel them from the out and of the area, and tried their level best to control the Kashmiris at their level best. Because Kashmir have been with them around 1845 to 1853. Around, you can say, 9 or 10 years, Kashmir has been lying with the English elites and the English rulers. And once again in 18, you can say, 53, it has been sold over at the price of 75 lakh to one of the, you can say, Maharaja Gulab Singh. You can say that was at that time that English people sold out the Kashmiris, and just after 8 to 9 years adoration period came, when after 1819 to 1947, only 9 years Kashmir has been with the English people. Rest of all periods, the Sikh Sardars and the Singh family, mean Gulab Singh family, and then their you can say upcoming generation have been ruling on the Kashmiris. So from 1853 to 1947, you can say the Singh family, Gulab Singh, you can say Dogra Raj was there when you can say it was handed over, and then onward it has been with the Singh family, the Sikh families. And you know that Sikh are the sons and the daughters and the generation of Guru Nanak. Guru Nanak, it took start around 1000 years ago, the teachings of Nanak family, and people have controversy about those were the sent one or that were somewhat other. Some are of the view that though the six ones got something teachings from the saintly characters, and they made Nanak kind of you can say religion, and Guru Nanak are like that people was over there, and this was the base of Sikh family that might come out of the bioproduct of the Hindu civilization. But Sikhs were the people, those who took over in the period of 1819, Ranjit Singh first, and then English people from 1845 to 1853. That was 8 and 9 years period that English ruled over them. Then the rest of all period from 1853 up till 1947, when the you can say division came between India and Pakistan, and there was need of how to get them governed. But before you can say some administrative and executive reforms and steps were to be taken, the controversy arisen between the Muslim elites and Muslim League and the Congress at that time. How you can say the fate of the independent states is to be made. As you are well aware that England and English civilization was under the threat of one of the Karl Marx and the socialism teachings, and socialism, communism teachings were rapidly you can say getting roots in the land of subcontinent, and because there was the poverty and cruelty and ignorance, And wherever there is poverty and ignorance and cruelty, automatically the teachings of communism and socialism will attract to the people, and people will turn to it, because the basic rights are given there and people become happy on this. But they are becoming the victim of any kind of ism, either it is capitalism or communism, but they do not know what Islam could offer them. But they are under cover, they are under suppression, they are under umbrella of the Hindus and the Christians and the Jews and the rest of the civilization. That's why they can't understand what is the study of Islam and what Islam offers them. Though Islamic civilization have been under shattering stage, and they could not grow at the intellectual and physical level, though they have been developing at the physical level, at the soldiership level, how to govern the world in a material way, but they have been under defeat at the Islamic civilization and true character that Hazur Pak Sallam and then the rest of his comrades and the fellows have introduced, that has been not followed later. That's why they become victim of the rest of the civilization. So I was talking about Kashmir, and before 1947 period comes, when the distribution and the division of subcontinent came, the Kashmiris, you can say, struggle, took at hot water the English ones, and the Hari Singh's generation that was, and the Gulab Singh's generation was present there since 1853, and it went up to 1947. But in 1920, the Kashmiris once again arisen, and they made some intensive moves that was to outclass and outshine the Hari Singh generation, the Sikh Sardars generation. And Sikh Sardars generation, you can say, were the responsible all the tyranny and suppression that came on the Kashmiris, more than the English ones. You can say the English and the Singh family and the Sikh families have always been bulldozing the you can say poor Kashmiris, and they were always being the victim. But it is present in the chemistry of the Muslims that wherever they are 8% or 10%, they will revolt against the tyranny, and they will revolt against the rulership, and they will rise up for their right of self-determination. And wherever the matter of ideology, they might compromise the basic rights or human rights, but they would not compromise the Islamic solidarity and Islamic, you can say, image, and Islamic, you can say what I could say, Islamic, the identity. They would never ever be compromised the Islamic identity. They could compromise the basic rights, human rights, but they can't compromise the survival and the crushing of the Islamic civilization and the history and the character that are coming on by being the independent. So 1920, another phase of Kashmiris came when they took adverse steps against the Hari Singhs and the Gulab Singhs and Dogra Raj's period people generation that were ruling over them. Then a time came when, you can say, Second World War fought, and the